business owners, public servants, and fellow corporate hippies. Do you want to make a bigger impact in your world, but it's just hard? Like you're not being heard in meetings, other people are drowning you out, you're not quite sure how to craft your message for maximum cut through, or it's just exhausting saying the same thing over and over and over again. Well, inside my Impact Club, thoughtful business owners, community and humble leaders are supported, highly supported, to make their dent, your dent, in the universe in your way. The Impact Club is not a course. Instead, it's a high-touch community with 2 live calls per month, plus all of the support that you need to own your message, harness your voice, and make your unique impact in the world. Click on the For Individuals menu at impactfulpresenters.com or click the direct link in the show notes. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Speaking with Confidence with Kat Matson, the show where I, Kat, coach you, humble leaders, corporate hippies, or just people who want to make a bigger difference, how to show up and speak up in a way that feels like you. Authentic, and speak up and show up in a way that makes your desired impact. Welcome to another episode. It's awesome to have you here. If this is your first episode, what a juicy one for you to land on. Welcome. And if this is, I don't know, your second, third, or even 100th episode, welcome back. It's awesome to have you back here. So today, yes, we are talking about how to pitch for a TEDx talk. Now, this particular question came from a listener, and she asks, what are your best tips for writing your pitch and your speech for a TEDx talk? When I went back and said, why do you want to do a TEDx talk? The response was, well, wait for it. It's a bit of a self-challenge. This is how I want to overcome my fear of public speaking. And Tavy has set herself a massive challenge of actually making sure that she can overcome this fear of public speaking by speaking at a TEDx event. Ballsy. So let me go through. I've got many thoughts about this one, many thoughts. So today in this conversation, I want to talk about TEDx talks in particular, because they're a very specific format and event, and how you might want to pitch yourself for one of those if it's actually a good fit, because it's not a good fit for everybody. But also then, how do you pitch yourself for other speaking opportunities? There are lots of other ways to overcome your fear of public speaking without doing a TEDx talk. And there's also lots of other ways of reaching your audience other than a TEDx talk. Because again, a TEDx talk is a very specific audience. We're going to talk about how to pitch for both those kind of events and whatever else pops into my head as we go along, because that's the nature of how my brain works. So let's first of all talk about TED or TEDx. Now, way back when I first started this podcast back in 2020, I recorded an episode called The Problem with TED Talks. It's episode number 3. So once you've finished this one, I highly recommend that you go back and listen. Yes, it's a slightly cynical look at the TEDx talks, but it actually does outline some of the challenges that I think we misunderstand when we aspire to be on a TEDx stage. Now, TEDx, it has massive appeal, right? We've all seen those TEDx videos that go viral. And so it feels like it's one of those amazing opportunities to get our name, to get our reputation, to get our message in front of hundreds, thousands, if not millions of people. However, just because you go viral in a TEDx talk doesn't mean that your business explodes. And going viral in a TEDx talk is actually ridiculously difficult, and it's completely out of your control. It's very much what the TEDx curators are pushing and promoting. So the first kind of caution I want to make in today's conversation is TEDx isn't necessarily the aspirational stage to be on, certainly not as an early or inexperienced speaker. A TEDx stage is amazing if you already have a business model or if you already have a role that can benefit from that virality should you go viral. And what I mean by that is, do you already have a business that can cater to hundreds of thousands of people? Do you have a book that, book sales would go through the roof if you got massive exposure? If your outcome is to just get a bit of exposure, TEDx might not be the way to do it. The other thing about TEDx, and this is one of the things that critical's too strong a word, but I don't have a better one right now, so I apologize. But one of the other issues for me that I find with a TEDx talk is that they are very, very, very structured to be the same. And you'll see this. If you ever go to a TEDx event, you'll see that all of the speakers follow the exact same format. Now, for a new public speaker, this isn't fantastic. And in fact, experienced public speakers that I know who have participated in TEDx talks have found the format really constraining. You have to submit your speech weeks, if not months, in advance. You have to deliver it memorized. It has to be a very specific format. Like, it's not necessarily an awesome way to authentically connect or to express yourself. Having said that, of course, TEDx events can be fantastic. But when you're thinking about stages to speak on, think about other opportunities like chambers of commerce, business networking events, even your school P&Cs or Rotary groups. People are always looking for speakers to add content, to add interest, to add a community flavour to their events. And back in episode 51, I talk about how to find stages to speak on. And in episode 135, I talk about how to pitch yourself for speaking opportunities. So all of these different episodes will be listed in the show notes. You can just click wherever you're listening or watching. So let's talk about how to pitch yourself first for a TEDx spot, because that's quite specific, and then for other events. Now, TEDx. I've spoken to a couple of people who have spoken at TEDx Brisbane events. They're a very well-known event now, and the organiser of TEDx will generally stalk for interesting speakers and influencers and invite them in to speak at an upcoming event. Those speakers will be invited in because they are values aligned, I should say, to that particular theme or to that particular event that the organiser is curating. So if you do want to pitch yourself to a TEDx event, first of all, you need to be clear on what are the themes, what is the upcoming event that is being planned, what is it all about, what are the themes, what are the objectives, who are they talking to, and how can you fit? How can you fit authentically? Don't try to fit yourself into, if you don't try to fit a square peg into a round hole just to get on that little red carpet, but rather, if it's a natural alignment, go for it. The other thing that I highly recommend that you do is find the TEDx curator for the event that you want to speak at and start building a relationship. As I said, they're stalking well in advance. They are looking well in advance. And if you do a cold pitch, they are going to be far more likely to pay attention if they've already heard of you. So find them, connect with them on LinkedIn, connect with them on Facebook, ask for an introduction, go to some of the, if there's any other events in the lead up, just build a relationship. In terms of pitching then for a TEDx talk, have a look at previous talks and see how they've been framed. And what I mean by that is, what is the title? What is the blurb? How have these conversations been positioned in the program Now, here's the distinction. If you look at how they've been positioned in the program, that will give you clues as to how to pitch your presentation to be suitably impactful. Because a TEDx event is looking to create value for its audience. Now, it's a ticket selling event, it's a money making event, it's a community impact event. And again, as I said earlier, there will be a theme, there will be a feel, there will be a vibe that the organizer is looking to create in the upcoming event. And so aligning your topic, aligning your presentation, aligning your title, and aligning your key outcomes or your key deliverables to all of those themes, the outcomes, and the audience, and writing it in a way that the organizer can easily see it going into the program, that makes it far more likely to be successful, or at least far more likely to at least get a bit of interest. I have other things to say about TEDx events, but I'm going to come back to those in a second, because while I'm talking about how to pitch, similar rules apply when you're pitching to other events, chambers of commerce, networking events. Anyone who is organising events like this want to add value to their audience members. So what your speaking pitch needs to do is show how you are adding value to that audience. So for example, if you provide language training programs for professionals, then pitching that to the Chamber of Commerce in terms of how learning a language can be a really powerful asset, not just for talking to people from overseas, but also to your creativity, how your brain works, all those kind of things, then framing that and pitching that to a Chamber of Commerce, they would jump at that. They would absolutely jump at that. So frame a pitch to an event organizer, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Group, School P&C, with a hooky title, as in a benefit-orientated title that is of benefit and of interest to that group's audience. Outline what it is that the listener, the audience, will get out of hearing this conversation. And I don't mean get in terms of free books or anything, but they will learn how to do, they will discover how to do this, like those kind of phrases, and why you think it's of value to their particular audience. So understanding your audience or the event's audience and understand what's going to be of value for them, not just what you want to dump on them, is really important. Now, circling back in particular to the TEDx desire, pitching yourself for TEDx when we know that the curators of most TEDx events are always stalking, always looking, always scouting for speakers rather than receiving cold pitches. One of the things that you really want to do if you want to be on a TEDx stage is build a bit of a profile for having an opinion, for having a different approach, and for speaking at different events. So my hot tip would be don't pitch yourself, alter the aspiration. Rather than a TEDx stage being your first public speaking opportunity, warm yourself up on other stages that have, I'm going to say, lower stakes, that are easier to show up on, easier to pitch for, get some runs on the board, and develop that profile. So every time you do one of those speaking events, every time you speak at a Rotary, at a School P&C, at a Chamber of Commerce, at a business networking event, get someone to take photos, talk about the feedback, talk about what you delivered, talk about why you're so passionate about this particular topic, and post that across your social media channels. Because then as the TEDx curator is looking for speakers, you're going to hit the radar. There's going to be a backlog, if you like, of history, of credibility, of worthiness to actually put you on their stage. Because as I said, a TEDx event, it's tightly curated. It's a performance in itself, and the curator needs to line up all of these speakers that are going to complement each other and complement the themes. So you need a little bit of evidence, you need a little bit of credibility before you'll hit their radar and before you can be put on the stage. So, I hope that answers the question. And as I said, I've talked about different elements of this before. So, check out episode 3, Why I Don't Like TED Talks, episode 51, How to Find Other Stages to Speak On, and episode 135, How to Pitch Yourself for Events. Now, I share all sorts of little tips and tricks on my Instagram channel and in LinkedIn. And that's also the best places. They're the best places for you to ask me questions that you would like me to answer in an upcoming episode. Both my Instagram handle and my LinkedIn link are in the show notes, but you can simply find me by Googling Kat Matson, that's Kat with a C. Follow me on your preferred social media channel. And if you have a question that you would like me to answer in an upcoming episode, please ask away, because that is honestly where you get the best juice out of my head. You ask me questions, I answer. A reminder too about my Impact Club, which is where fellow humble leaders and corporate hippies are supported to make their dent in the universe. If you're curious about how I can support you to speak up, show up, and be the most full self-expression of yourself, then check out that as well. Again, the link is in the show notes. Until I see you next week for another episode of Speaking with Confidence, I hope you have a fabulous one doing whatever it is that you're doing. And here's to confidence, and here's to impact. I'll see you soon.